I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
So, Robyn, welcome to the James Altucher Show. It's not a podcast, it's the James Altucher Show. That's my new slogan.
Okay.
You remember that slogan? It's not TV, it's HBO.
No.
That was a great slogan that HBO had. And it was true. HBO had like a different type of show. I mean, if you think about it, all the great original shows sort of stemmed out of what HBO started with. Things like The Sopranos and Sex and the City. These were like, you know, violent and sexier than any other show on TV. And suddenly every show sort of wanted to be like that.
Yeah.
So that's why my new slogan is, because I'm just imitating HBO, it's not a podcast, it's the James Altucher Show.
Okay.
So basically, I want to talk about how kids, and by kids, I mean anyone younger than me, kids are basically stupid. And I'm stupid. I'm not saying I'm smart. And the reason is because we learn all this BS in high school. Like we learn chemistry, the periodic table of elements, we learn calculus, algebra, we learn the Canterbury Tales. I don't know why they would teach the most boring piece of literature in the past 1,000 years in high school, but we don't learn basic adulting skills. Like several things we need to survive as an adult. None of them are taught in high school or college. Sometimes our parents teach these to them, but sometimes they don't know because they're just living out their normal, boring lives and they don't teach us these things. And I'm talking about basic skills. Like, for instance, when I was a young man on my own for the first time, I had no idea how to rent and maintain an apartment. There should be a course on like how to rent an apartment, how to pay your bills, how to keep an apartment clean, how to maintain an apartment, how to look for an apartment or a house, whatever. My first apartment in New York, I basically shared with somebody I met in like Washington Square Park, like a random person. He was a chess hustler in Washington Square Park. And I moved into his apartment and I was paying him $300 a month on the corner of 14th and 7th in New York City. And I thought he was paying like a landlord the $300 a month. He wasn't paying anybody. It turns out we were squatting in that apartment. And like 2 a.m. one day, we just had to leave.
Oh, no.
And I had the flu at the time. It was horrible. And then I moved into the Chelsea Hotel because I had to move into a cheap hotel because I didn't know anything about. I mean, it's a full-time job to find and rent an apartment. I see that now even with my kids.
Yeah.
And it's even harder when you're an adult, like when you're older, because then you're getting a nice apartment. There's like the last apartment we rented in New York City, you and I, I had to show up with several character references, one job reference. My lawyer had to write a letter. My accountant had to write a letter. I had to show 3 years of tax returns. I had to get all this paperwork together. I had to prove, had to get like income stubs.
Right.
So
No, it's very difficult. I mean, I think that parents really, it's their job, not the school, to teach kids these things. And I feel that those things are taught to kids even from a very young age, you know, of how to maintain a house. You know, you have them work along with you when you're doing chores, or you give them chores when they're young. And then they learn how things work and what needs to be done. Then, you know, as they get a little older, then you teach them how to, you know, do their laundry and wash their clothes.
see, that's another great example. I have no idea how to do laundry.
Right.
Like
So
like every time
that's a big
I've done
fail,
it for
really,
us.
for your parents.
Yeah, my
honestly.
parents failed. For instance, I know you put clothes in the container of the laundry machine, but then where do you put the detergent? You put them on the clothes, or you put them in that little filler thing in the
Yeah.
beginning, and then you
Yeah.
put these little things in there to make a clothes toss more.
I'll do a tutorial for you.
We should do like how-to videos, like Adulting
exactly.
101, the class.
But I am surprised though how many people, adults, don't know how to do these things. I had to do this stuff when I was growing up. So I knew when I left, I knew how to do everything. I knew how to cook basic meals. I knew how to do the laundry. I knew how to clean the many parts of the house because that was my job, you know.
And all this, they should have had an Adulting 101 class, like maybe in 11th grade or 10th grade or something. But like, for instance, cooking. I know they have like home ec class for like 1 month or 2 months of some school years, but I have no idea how to cook anything. Like, what's the difference between boil and bake? I don't know how to turn on most ovens. And I was telling one of our kids actually the other day, can you make an egg? Like, I feel like if you could make an egg, I saw in some chef show that he basically said that he requires his students, the first thing is they have to learn how to make a perfect egg.
Right.
So what's the big deal about an egg?
Well, I mean, you can make an egg taste really terrible if you overcook it, or, you know, you don't put enough oil. It can be very dry.
I have a question, actually. I was in a hotel the other day, and I was going to get the scrambled eggs, but then I didn't because I saw it includes dairy on the thing. Why does egg have dairy?
Because when you do a scrambled egg, you know, a lot of times people put cream in it.
Ew.
Yeah, no, you love my eggs
And you put cream in it?
sometimes.
I feel like you put like heroin in my food all of a sudden.
No.
I feel like this is a bad thing that you've been lying to me. That kind of the basic trust of our marriage is gone. Can you cook, for instance, like a steak?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
What can't you cook?
A souffle? I
What
don't know.
is
I mean,
it?
I guess I could
What
if
is
I
a souffle?
really.
Is that the thing that goes on fire in the restaurant?
Well,
Or is
like
that a flambe?
Yeah, that's a flambe. No, a souffle is something that it's like you put in the oven, and it's very delicate, and it sort of grows. And if you
I have a feeling you have no idea what you're talking about right now.
no, like it. Okay, whatever. I'm not a big cook.
Do you know how to make a cake
Yes, I know how to make
from
a cake.
scratch?
Why would I do that from scratch? But yes, I guess I could. I don't really like following the directions. Like, I like looking at a recipe and then kind of coming up with my own ideas.
Yeah, no, I could get along. I could agree with that. But and the thing is with baking, you can't. Baking is more like
Yeah, I
chemistry.
know.
That's where you had to pay attention in chemistry.
Right,
Because
right.
baking is like a chemical reaction. This thing that looks like nothing suddenly blossoms
Yeah.
into a cake. Whereas a steak, you put it in there, you throw in some flavor, and then you
Yeah.
heat it up, and somehow you have to make sure it's not so well done or tough that it tastes
Well,
bad.
here's the thing. The things that you like to eat, you know, you don't cook. So you need to learn how to make sushi. It's just about, it's just about rolling. it
Oh,
up.
I did. So in 1991, okay, all of 1991, which was, I don't know, 31 years ago, I did join a dinner club where we took turns once a week cooking food. And I shouldn't say cooking because I made sushi. I got a whole sushi kit where you roll it up, and I had to make sushi style
Did it look
rice.
good?
Yeah, it was good. But then I did, even then, fusion sushi. I did I made dessert sushi. So I had a sushi with the seaweed and the rice with banana and cinnamon
Oh.
in the middle. and it was good. Everybody
It was?
appreciated it. It was savory with the seaweed, and it was sweet with the banana and the cinnamon.
Oh, how
so I had like idea sex, sushi mixed with dessert.
You are creative.
There
so-
you go.
Yeah.
10 ideas a day.
Right.
But I feel like that would have saved, like, particularly in New York City, it is really hard to find an apartment, to know what to look for in an apartment, rent an apartment, and then to maintain it, to clean it, and to have it look nice, and to furnish it. You know, even my last apartment in New York before I met you, I had to hire someone to furnish my apartment because I just didn't know what to get or where to get it, and I didn't want to spend the time figuring it out.
Sure. And you're a guy. I mean, most guys don't really take the time.
Why are guys, like, it would be bad if I said, well, most girls can't do math.
No,
like,
I
what,
mean, I just
like, how
feel
come
like-
people feel real comfortable saying, oh, guys can't take care of themselves?
Well, first of all, I don't think you really care what it looks like. So you're not going to, waste any of your time doing that. I mean, your mind is more on, going out and working. And I personally like decorating. So I do like, to create a home, that's very warm and inviting. So it's important to me.
I have to say, you execute very fast when you're moving into a new place. Like, I've been in situations where I move into a house or an apartment and a year later, I still haven't unpacked. But when you move into a place, and we've moved in, I've seen you move 3 times basically. And when you move into a place, even if it's whether it's a small place or a huge place, it's within 3 days, it's like all unpacked and it doesn't feel like anyone else ever lived there.
Yeah. No, I don't, I guess I'm good at it because, I've had to, do that for so many years living abroad, going to one place to the next. And that's all you have when you go into another country. You just have the things that, are your comfort things, I guess, that you create.
Like you moved
your
to
environment.
I mean, you moved to Ghana, you moved to China, you lived in China for 6 years, you lived in Kuwait for 3 years, you lived in Ghana for 3 years. Like, when you moved from China to Kuwait, for instance, how long did it take for you to just set up your home?
Oh, it's just about 3 days. I mean,
Yeah, your 3 days is like your magic number.
right. And I mean, I'll work hard those 3 days because I don't like being around boxes and I want to be settled. So I really, I can't clear my mind when there's just stuff all over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I make it a point to really get it done quickly.
You know, the other thing I wish they taught us back in high school, which the most critical skill maybe in life, but they don't teach us anywhere. And you really don't figure it out until you're an adult. And most of the time I still don't have it figured out, is how to say no. Like, it is really hard to say no to people. Like, if friends invite us to a destination wedding in Hawaii and I really don't want to go, it's July 4th weekend, we get invited to a destination wedding in Hawaii, I really don't want to go. And I've even written a book, The Power of No. And my gut reaction is to just never respond and never speak to those people ever again, rather than saying no.
I know, but I mean, you don't want to lose a friend over it, but it's pretty simple. I mean, especially nowadays when you can, write an email or, a nice email. I mean, it's just easy to do that and just.
But it's not easy because when you say no, and maybe these things are myths, but here's what goes through my head. I think they're not going to like me. They're going to argue with me. They're going to think I'm a jerk. They're going to think I'm being overly aggressive by saying no.
Oh, no.
Like, you've had a hard time saying no to people before. Like,
True. But the thing is like, if they are your true friends, they'll understand if you can't go, if something is up and you can't make
what
it.
if they don't? What if they're your true friends and they don't understand?
Well, then they're really not your true friends.
That's what everyone says, but I think
It's
that's
really
not true.
true. I mean, I don't, I can't be close to somebody really that does something like that or makes me feel guilty because it's a kind of a lopsided relationship if they use guilt to, make you do things. I mean, that's not a very healthy one. So most friends that are healthy friends for you, they will completely understand. I would understand, and I'm not going to create any problem because their friendship is worth more than them coming to my wedding.
Yeah, so you would have so you're not worried about them not liking you because if they don't like you, then you don't want to be their friend anyway.
Right.
But that would be a disappointment to you, though.
It would.
If someone who you thought was a good friend.
Life is full of disappointments. But
so you don't have a problem saying no?
No, I have no problem saying no.
I think most people have problems saying no.
Well, they shouldn't. And the thing is if though you do want to go, and like before we talked about this, if you are very, very close to somebody and they give you a lot of notice, I mean, I would go because if they're in my close circle, I mean, I would go, and I know that they,
But what if you wanted-
they would go for me.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I always do that, even you. But like, let's say it's July 4th. It's a destination wedding to Malaysia. They're getting married in Malaysia. I want to spend time just relaxing and resting on a holiday weekend. I don't want to go fly all the way. That's like 2 weeks out of my life. I have to go someplace and spend the money. And I feel like destination weddings are rude. And you know why? In part is because 50% of weddings end in divorce anyway, at the marriages, I mean. And so why, like, I'm going to go, but then no matter what I do, 50% of the time, it was just a waste. I mean, you know what always works 100% of the time is, like, when you get divorced, like 99% of divorces work out. The divorce sticks. They don't get remarried to each other. So, like, if someone said, hey, James, you're my close friend, I'm having a destination divorce in Las Vegas. We're going to go to court on this day, July 4th weekend. And I want you to be there. And then we're going to go out afterwards. We're going to go to dinner. We're going to have a nice dinner, whether it's a sad thing or a celebratory thing. Maybe get a divorce registry. I want to get this guy a toaster because now he's got to move into an apartment on his own, which we know is hard. No, if it's a woman too, I would go to a destination divorce.
This is such a guy thing. Like,
and it's also more juicier. Like the gossip, it's juicier to go to a destination divorce. That would be a fun thing for me.
Oh, see, that wouldn't be fun for me. But see, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, why is that a guy thing? I feel this is like racism against guys.
Oh, no, because, I mean, it's usually divorce is not something that you celebrate. I mean, there's a lot of people that are hurt and possibly kids. So, I mean, it's not something to just
No, that's true.
Celebrate.
You're right. I'm making light of it, but when there are kids involved, it's super sad. It's really horrible because the kids, they are sad. So, but this is a good question too, which I wish I had learned as a kid, and now I have to learn, or I don't have to anymore. But how do you end a relationship? I wish they had taught us that, whether it's a business partnership or a friendship or a romantic relationship. It's very difficult to end a relationship. That is very true. And kids, we never learn that as kids. And you know what? People stay in miserable relationships their entire life. And I'm not making light of it at all. Like, it is like a prison when you're, and there's also, but then there's the phenomenon that the grass is greener on the other side, which we know is not true. So how do you know when to end a relationship? Well, how do you know how to end a relationship?
I mean, I'm not, a therapist, but I mean, if it's a marriage, I would say that it's important to go to a professional and try to work it out that way. I mean, at least you're trying, If it's a business relationship, honesty is really the best policy, and you've got to really be honest with people and yourself. You can't really try to talk yourself into like, oh, well, I guess I'm happy, or, no, you really got to really go into your psyche and figure out what is wrong, what's making you so unhappy. And you need to be very, not confrontational, but you need to be able to sit down and have a healthy conversation about it and how you feel. And I think people respect that. That's why it's important for kids really to learn how to ask questions, defend themselves, ask for help when they're young, because then it actually will help them as an adult. If I'm not happy with this, I need to communicate this with my teacher or my boss. And you can do it in a very, nice, professional way. But I know it's not easy, but it's something that you need to really teach the kids. And as adults, you just need to be honest with yourself and with people. And I love that about people when they're very honest with me, because I realize how hard it is for them to say something, So I really respect people that do that. So that's sort of a message that we should get out to our kids, that it is, people respect that.
And I think you have to go into something, whether it's a business relationship or a friendship or a romantic relationship. I think you have to go into it knowing pretty clear what your boundaries are And not that you can never cross your boundaries, because people are different, and sometimes you have to do things the partner wants but that's not really like a hard boundary. But knowing what your boundaries are in terms of what type of person you want to be. Like, for instance, some people have romantic relationships where they claim they're in an open relationship and they're fine with that. For me, that would be a solid boundary, and I know for you too. And you have to know that the other person has similar, not exactly the same, but similar boundaries to you.
Exactly.
And I think then if you know in advance what kind of boundaries in terms of, like, for instance, is making money important, or is securing freedom and independence important? Because those are two different things. And so that's kind of like part of a financial due diligence, even in a romantic relationship, or in a business partnership. Do we want to sell the company tomorrow, or do we want to build this into something forever? Or even in a friendship, does this person's values align with mine? Is when we get together, are we going to have interesting things to do and talk about, or is it going to be small talk every single time?
Sure.
And
those are important. The core values, I think, are super important when it comes to any type of partnership.
and I think you have to know your
Those
own,
run deep.
and you have to know your own weaknesses. Like, sometimes I've been afraid to end relationships because maybe I would get hit by a car the next day. I remember even saying this to my therapist when at the time, this is years and years and years ago, I was trying to decide whether to end a relationship. And I said to my therapist, what if I get hit by a car tomorrow and then no one will ever like me again? Whereas I'm with this person now and she'll stay with me even if I get hit by a car and horrible things happen. And first off, the therapist said, how do you know she'll stay with you? Maybe she wouldn't. And second off, are you really going to be happier if you're with someone you don't like and you've lost your legs?
That's true.
So, but other times I've been able to just, one way I've ended a relationship is I made sure there was a little bit of distance. And then I don't know if this is a bad thing or a good thing, but I wrote an email and said, I've been doing a lot of thinking. It's not working out. I need time to not do this. And some people criticize me because I wrote an email instead of saying it in person. But I think in person, it turns into like a negotiation or an argument. And I knew me, and I just wanted to solidify the ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think that before it gets to that point, I mean, communication is really super important, and honest communication. So when you're really talking to your partner or your, business associate or whatever, I mean, it's just very important to be honest and to not, because a lot of it would be your fault if you say, oh no, it's okay, and then they say, oh okay, and then they do it, and then you get upset. It's really not that person's fault because you didn't set the boundaries.
What if you don't know what your true honesty is? Like, sometimes I'll like someone because, they're pretty, or I've known them for a long time, or whatever. There might be reasons that maybe I think that leads to a good relationship, but it doesn't ultimately.
Well, I mean, I think you have to have many different levels of liking somebody. It can't just be one. Like that one particular thing could just go away. I mean, if it's just looks, I mean, that just lasts so long. And then, you have the deeper person. So you really need to know the person at many different levels.
So how much time do you think you should spend knowing someone before getting into a romantic relationship?
I mean, I think you should spend time. It takes a lot of time.
We got married like in a few days practically.
No, we didn't. We actually knew each other for over a year, but then we were together constantly for almost 3 months every day.
But that's a very fast time.
It is. But how many times, the amount of hours that we spent with each other made up what may be somebody dating somebody for a year or a year and a half. Maybe they see each other once or twice a week, or they go on a little vacation. But like it was very concentrated. And I mean, we are older, but who knows, I don't really know the magic, potion from getting divorced, but I do know the importance of communication, and I do know the importance of respecting each other and being honest.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get two memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. So again, there should be like an adulting 101 class where people have to cook, people have to clean an apartment.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's
people
true.
have to like pair up in like pseudo relationships and break up with each other, and somebody advise and comment on whether they're doing it well. Because again, none of these things were even discussed. Like, why was this not more important than learning the periodic table of elements in school? I think I think teachers thought, oh, well, they'll get this in real life no
Look at
matter
this
what.
at home. Yeah. School is not to raise your kids, but people look at that as raising your kids. I mean, even though, both parents work, you still have time on the weekends. You still have time in the evenings, to spend with your kids, cook with them, have them do chores, when they get home. I mean, I know it's not easy as a parent to make this happen or to make them do it, but you have to be consistent, and it's only for their own benefit, really. We don't cook, the kids do. I love it. I love the fact that those kids now, our kids can cook for us. Don't you think that's great?
Yeah, no, I think that's very good. Although I like to order out Uber Eats
Right.
most of
You're
the
the only
time.
one that-
Because you know what I find is that they don't cook enough. And that they have huge
enough
appetites.
food. Yeah.
They cook and then they eat everything. And
Right.
there's
Yeah.
nothing
Well,
left
they're not
for me when I come down from work.
They're used to cooking for themselves. You
Yeah.
see, so they're used to small portions, whereas we're a big family, and I'm used to cooking large portions for a bunch of people. So, they're just getting used to that. Doubling the recipe or something. So, yeah, and it makes them feel good too. To do something for us.
Another thing is like in math, we take math class from first grade through 12th grade. We end up in like algebra, geometry, or calculus. None of that stuff, with the rare exception, but basically, particularly calculus or trigonometry, that is not useful in real life at all. And the one thing that is useful in real life is probability. Like knowing when you're trying to make decisions, let's say you're trying to make a decision and you say, okay, well, there's a 40% chance they'll be happy with this, 50% chance they'll be happy with this, 60% chance they'll be happy with this. People need to understand what basic probability is. And if I was teaching like an adulting 101 class, I would teach probability and statistics in the context of decision making. Like nobody teaches that at all. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think that is a very important thing to learn. I feel like the basics, though, are even more important. Just basic, like self-care. There's a lot of adults that don't know how to do certain things, What other things do you think are good for, like, self-care? What's the other one? Like banking, any sort of, paying your bills?
paying taxes. There should be a course as part of Adulting 101. If I was teaching Adulting 101 in high school, you would have to fill out your tax forms. Like give them like fake incomes, and they have to
Right.
file like a tax return. Because I have no clue. Like, I don't know the difference between a W-2 and a 1099 and what the actual form is that you fill your taxes out.
Yours is a lot more complicated, but in terms of just, a kid, having just a job, they take out the tax for you and everything. So that's a simpler way. It wouldn't be so complicated to do your own taxes, But when you start to, have investments and you have money coming here and there, it becomes a little bit more.
And this generation, this Gen Z, they're going to have to get used to more complicated taxes because they have multiple streams of income in many cases.
Right.
Like the gig economy has grown exponentially in the past 10 years. So, this is going to
that's
be
true.
a fact of life.
Yeah, there are companies out there like H&R Block that are not very expensive that they can go to, and it doesn't cost much to get it done. So, I mean, there are companies out there. It's just, making sure that you collect, if you're self-employed, collecting all your receipts or being able to be organized enough.
Yeah,
That's
see,
another big thing.
that's
is
impossible for me.
organization. And just in life, being organized, that will make your life so much easier. And I'm still working on that part.
That's essentially impossible for me. But the good thing is if you have like one, and again, this is something that we taught, if you have one credit card, like let's say American Express,
Yeah.
they use to pay for everything, then you don't need to keep all the receipts. You could see all your purchases on an American Express bill.
Yeah.
But this discussion of taxes and jobs leads to another important thing that's never taught, which is how do you do a good job interview? Like, I find that is or I did find when I was doing interviews for jobs, that was very hard for me to know how to prepare for a job interview. And the flip side is a little later when I was hiring people for jobs to know what they were doing that was good, or the interviewees, what they were doing that was good or bad, like was a difficult thing. Like preparing for a job interview, writing a resume. No, I find young people have no clue how to do this.
Some of our kids definitely have resumes. I mean, they've had help with their professors and their teachers.
Yeah, and that help has been disastrous, I feel. Like I don't think I don't right now I would give, if you graded our kids from 0 to 10, maybe the best would get a 5 in terms of like getting themselves ready for a job interview and putting together a resume.
Oh, I don't know, because they've done that and they've gotten jobs. So, I mean, they're doing something right.
I guess that's true.
But, they have to see somebody doing it. I mean, it helps to do it with them, or it helps to see, because I mean, those change a lot as well, So you've got to kind of go along with what the new look is for your resume, because it changes. So as parents, the resumes don't look the same as they did when we were young.
I think now people have less ability to do a resume now because there are so many different types of resumes and ways in which you present your skills.
Right.
But I would say, based on my experience, that the number one thing you can do, and this is what I would teach in Adulting 101 class, the number one thing you can do to enhance your resume is to reinforce it with not just job skills, like, oh, I used to work at Procter & Gamble where I headed up their Crest marketing campaign, but have valuable life experiences in there. Like, I lived in these countries, I speak these languages, I know or for me, the fact that I had chess master on my resume was a lot more important than that I learned some obscure programming language or whatever. I mean, those were I would get jobs only because I had above and beyond stuff on my resume that showed I wasn't just one piece of paper, but there was depth underneath this resume.
Yeah.
And I think kids don't know how to do that. They don't understand competition. And this is what I mean by probability. They don't understand that everyone applying for a job is probably the same as them. Like if you're applying for a job, I'm just making this up, at like JP Morgan, an investment bank, everybody went to college, everybody knows, took economics, everyone interned for the government or a law firm or a hedge fund or something. Everybody, started a little small business when they're 18, organizing newspaper deliveries or some random business.
Sure.
They have to have something. They need to focus on what's above and beyond. And like for me, what was great was having this chess thing on my resume helped me get into college, grad school, helped me get my first jobs, helped me raise money for a hedge fund, helped me sell companies. Knowing what you're above and beyond is important.
I agree. That's why with my kids, when we moved back to the States, because they learned both Arabic and Mandarin, but I wanted them to at least keep one of those, because those were unusual languages. It wasn't just Spanish. It was, and they did, Lily kept Arabic and John kept Mandarin. And I think that's really kind of put them apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has to find where they are in the top 1%. People talk about the top 1% and they mean money, but you have to figure out what category you're in the top 1% of, and that's what's going to make you stand out. Right. And some people might be listening and thinking, well, I'm not in the top 1% of anything. Fear not. With just, there's online courses everywhere.
Do something unique.
There's subcultures in every area of life now where you could kind of belong to that subculture and kind of quickly so-called skip the line and rise up in that subculture. You could, we have an example of one of our kids applied to schools, didn't really get into the colleges of her choice. And so she very intelligently, on our advice, took a year off, found something she was interested in that was very unique. And we looked at a lot of different choices. Right. And she ended up getting a professional race car driving license and racing in professional races.
Right.
And then the next year, lo and behold, she got into every college she applied to and ended up going to like an amazing school.
Right.
Like the lowest of the low schools had rejected her the year before, and now she's going to like the best possible school.
Right.
And it was because it was sort of proof that finding that unique one thing where you're in the top 1% will separate you out from every high school kid's got a 4.0 GPA now and a huge SAT score, and they did charity for others, and they were president of the debate team or the Spanish club or whatever, and they don't stand out. And people need to know being great is not as important as being different. And that's something that they never teach in high school.
Right.
Or
They
college or
they
life.
try to make everyone the same, the same thought process, the same everything. But no, that's really true. I mean, a resume is going to get you right into the door. But then once you get into the door, you've got to use a different skill.
Particularly if you don't have the normal pedigree. Like, let's say I wanted to work at a big hedge fund when I was younger, because I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't study business. I didn't work at a big bank. I didn't have any real experience. So I had to start my own hedge fund, and I had to hustle and figure out the industry. But that for me then became unique. That became what was uniquely interesting for me, so that I was able to get other opportunities later on.
But also, you have a really great personality, and
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
And people like you,
Not always.
Well, for the most part, and you're fun, and people like to be around positive people, and I think that they will choose the fun, positive person over a very stoic, non-communicative person, because I think that being willing to work, being happy, creating a really good energy for the company, I think that's super important, because if you bring someone in that's a negative person, they're not going to like to be around you, and it's going to create a big problem throughout the company. So I really feel like the way you present yourself, the energy you bring in is really important once you're in front of these people.
But I think those are skills you can learn.
Yes,
I think
of
for many
course.
people, they need to practice that.
They do.
Like, it's not like, I did have many bad interviews when I was younger, and it was through trial and error, but I wish someone had told me, and I wish I had been in an environment where I could practice interacting with a boss, practice interacting with people on a date even. Like, for instance, small talk is a very difficult skill for me. I wish in Adulting 101, if there was such a class, I wish we could have all just milled around with like a fake cocktail and tried to talk to each other about nothing, because I can't do it. We've had situations where, you're in a setting where you like all the people, like you're at a party, but I'm very bad. Like, if there's more than just one-on-one or two-on-two people, like I can't talk about, how's the weather and what happened with your favorite sports team and all this stuff. Like, I'm very horrible at small talk.
Yeah, no, that it is hard when you are young, you don't know, you're embarrassed.
I'm talking about this past months or year. Like, I still can't do it.
I feel like once you, going back to the kids, I feel like a lot of their problems are that they're not confident. So they're just very nervous.
Yeah.
And it's all fear-based. Okay. So what are they nervous about? Well, they want to be accepted. They're still, learning how to do that, in their tribes at school, but really once they start to branch out and know who they are, then they start to feel a little bit more confident about themselves. Then you don't really worry as much as what people think. And it helps you to be able to talk and just be yourself. Because when you're not yourself, that's when you clam up or you don't know what to say because you're not being yourself.
No, I think that's a really great point. I think it's a skill to be able to speak the truth, even the first time you meet someone.
Right.
So a lot of times, kids and adults think like a salesman. They think, what can I say to make the other person like me?
Right.
But it's actually the reverse. It's sort of like when you say what you think, then the right people will like you. They'll either say, this person has something unique to say, I need someone like that around me, or they'll filter out the people who wouldn't accept them for who they are.
That's right.
So I think if you have a vision of things, like let's say you think to yourself, oh, crypto's going to be the future. I'm just making this up, although that might be something I think. But then you have to have reasons. You have to have, let's say, 10 reasons. So if you think something's going to be the future, if you have a vision for something, think of the 10 reasons. And some of those reasons everybody might not agree with, but you can argue them. And then you have to learn how to argue, which is, people have to learn how to present an argument and not and be willing to listen to the other side of the argument. This is part of being uniquely you, is that you don't shut people out if they don't agree with you. You listen and absorb and take new information and demonstrate that you're the sort of person who can take in more information. And related to this, that they never teach us in high school, is the ability to both give and take constructive criticism. Like you see this obviously on social media. People give criticism that's the obvious, like, oh, you're a jerk, so you must be wrong. And nobody really knows. Like, people ask me to read their writing all the time and comment on it. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But when I do, I make sure I say really, like, I'll say things like, oh, this story doesn't feel unique to me. It feels like something everybody else would write. So what about you can make this idea a unique story? Or sometimes people will give, oh, here's the 10 things you should do to succeed at business, but they don't tell a story along the way. And I always say, always be storytelling. And then sometimes they'll get right down to the nitty gritty of the writing. Like, you use too many words here. Why don't you take out these words or take out this paragraph? Right. Or people only read now in small chunks, so you have to divide up your paragraphs more. So I'll give constructive criticism, and if people give me constructive criticism, I listen, I pay attention.
Yeah.
Or I listen to the overall gist of it. Like, we're launching, notepad.com right now, for instance, and I hear sometimes sometimes there's positive feedback, sometimes people give constructive criticism, and sometimes they'll see, oh, if there's a trend in the criticism, okay, this is a feature we have to add, or a user experience thing we have to change. So it's very valuable to be able to take in new information, and it's very valuable to give constructive criticism that helps people and also, again, describes who you uniquely are and what your vision of the world is.
Right. I mean, it is true that when you do, when you're talking to somebody, I feel like the most important thing to do is to listen, okay, really, to be a good listener, and ask questions. Those are the two things I think are the most important to maybe if you're going to be going to a party. That's really all that you really need to do. Because when you ask questions, people love talking about themselves. But you also get to learn about that person by asking the good questions. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Asking questions is key, particularly in a party. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main, that's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com.
This is such a valuable service for all business owners, big businesses, small businesses, doesn't matter. I wish I had this in the many different businesses that I've started. Sometimes it seems like your business is humming, but then suddenly you don't understand it. You're starting to fall behind. You're not understanding where your costs are, where your revenues are, where your payments are. Teams are buried in all sorts of like BS work, and you can't seem to close the books. So you need like one dashboard, one source of truth. I'm jealous of this business, NetSuite from Oracle, of course, NetSuite by Oracle. I wish I'd come up with this idea. It's a brilliant concept to have all your business intelligence on one dashboard. This is why you need to know these three numbers: 37,000, 25, and 1. So 37,000, that's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. 1, because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all of your key performance indicators, your KPIs, in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow all in one place. So right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/James. That's netsuite.com/James to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/James.
You know how you make someone a really good listener?
How's that?
You say to them, hey, I think you're a really good listener.
Oh,
And then suddenly they will be,
Right,
because
right,
they don't
right.
want to disappoint you after that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little things like that I always forget to do, but because I was, with my job for 25 years, listening to a person, while I was doing their hair, it really helped me to learn that skill of asking questions and listening. And
People would really open up to you when you worked.
Oh, yeah.
Just to mention to the audience, you didn't go to college, and we've spoken about this before, and you opened up one of the biggest hair salons around, or spas. What's like one of the craziest stories a client has ever told you? And this is like 30 years ago, so it's not like you're revealing
no,
anything.
I mean, nothing really comes to mind because it's been so long ago, but I do.
What about someone cheating
I do
on-
remember that there was lots of cheating. And I remember, the husband coming in with the girlfriend, and then the receptionist had to book people, book the wife a different day just to make sure that the girlfriend wasn't going to come with the.
Did they ever
wife.
mess up? Like, did ever the girlfriend and the wife?
No,
show up
I
at
don't. Not that I can remember, but I was like, wow, that's just so horrible.
Were men cheating more than women, or women cheating more than men?
Yes, men were cheating more than women. I don't know of any women that were cheating from offhand.
Huh.
Yeah, so that was a very stressful situation.
Why?
I just felt like it was weird. Here comes this guy with this woman, and that's not his wife. I don't know. I'm just embarrassed. It's just, yeah.
But would the wives ever find out?
I don't know. I did
Did
not
they ever come in
go
crying?
into those. I think so, but this all happened really when I was working for somebody, and so I don't recall anything like that happening when I had my place. Maybe I was just too busy to get involved with it, but yeah.
And again, related to all of this is basic communication skills.
Yeah, that's true.
And right now, we have a big problem in society right now because of the internet, which is that everybody's a writer, but no one knows how to write. So like everyone writes updates on Facebook and LinkedIn and wherever, and everybody sends emails, but very few people, even when you're arguing with somebody, you have to tell a story. You have to have a beginning, middle, end. You have to have almost like a little plot. You have to understand the basics of debate and criticism and steel manning your argument, which means being able to argue the other side as if that was your position. You know, people need to know the basics of these. And that's another thing. We never really learn writing in school. Even though we have to write all these essays about the Canterbury Tales or whatever, you learn this kind of like academic format of writing, which is not how the real world operates.
Right.
So people graduate high school and even college not knowing how to communicate or write at all, but they think, you know, I graduated college in English, I of course can write, and they have overconfidence about their writing skills. It takes a long time to learn how to communicate well.
Right. No, that's true. No, very good point.
And you know, and then also we take science classes, but adulting 101, you should learn what science is. Like you hear this phrase these days, and by the way, when I say this, it doesn't politicize me, although people think it does. But we hear this phrase, trust the science, which is so stupid to even say those words. Those 3 words, trust the science.
Right.
Because the whole idea, like trust is the same as faith, right? And faith is religion. Science is meant to not be trusted. I don't have to trust anything. I can go out and do my own experiment or study the experiments and make sure. By the way, most scientific papers, or not most, but many scientific papers have to be retracted because the statistics was wrong or the results can't be reconfirmed. You know, somebody comes out, they discover nuclear fusion. Turns out nobody can recreate the experiment, so you have to take it back. They didn't discover it. Like, science is very hard. And the greatest scientific achievements in history were because the science was questioned. You always you never trust the science. You always have to question the science.
It's all experiments. It's experimenting and it's trying new things, and it's always moving. Science is always, developing.
Always developing. And I'm not saying, for instance, vaccine. People think when you say trust the science, you're also saying at the same time vaccines don't work. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. Vaccines very much work. They're one of the greatest scientific achievements of the 20th century. Right. But even Jonas Salk had to take back his original polio vaccine because it was causing too much polio. Mm-hmm. So, it was kind of really mastered about 6 years later. Now, the science of making vaccines has improved much since then. Mm-hmm. So we have better vaccines much more quickly. Right. But that came from not blindly trusting the science. That came from the science evolving so we can make good vaccines. We can make better airplanes and rocket ships. And, science is ultimately used to make our life better. Like a great example of not trusting the science, which we've talked about before, was, Igor Semmelweis is the classic example. He was a doctor in the 1850s who discovered that hand washing prevents the spread of germs. He invented germ theory. Mm-hmm. And everyone despised him so much for changing the science. They wanted to put him in a mental institution. Like they thought he was so wrong, which, you're always going to be laughed at if you come up with something new, because otherwise the other 7 billion people on the planet would have come up with something new before you.
And these were all the doctors and professors wanting to put him in jail.
Yeah. And look, Einstein, you know what? People always say, oh, you do your most popular work when you're young. Einstein is a great example of where that's not true. If I were to ask you, what did Albert Einstein do? Just off the top of your head, like you don't have to know physics or anything. What did Albert Einstein do?
Well, he discovered the atom bomb.
Well, he discovered the equation that did lead to the atom bomb. What's his famous equation? E equals mc squared. So E equals mc squared. He did that in 1905. He was a young guy. He was in his 20s. But his most cited paper was when he tries to refute quantum mechanics. He totally did not believe quantum mechanics. And he was simply wrong. Like years later, he admits he's wrong. Like most scientists, even the smartest people ever in history, are going to be wrong most of the time, or a good chunk of the time. And you have to know that about yourself, and you have to know how to identify that in other people and how to identify that in the headlines. Most headlines in the news you read are complete lies. And kids should know that they can't trust, basic media. They have to look for sources. And now, thanks to the internet, you can find the underlying sources, and you can do your own tests and experiments and have your own opinions and not join like some echo chamber or social media ghetto where everybody has the exact same opinions.
Right.
So this should be part of adulting 101.
And researching, learning how to research.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important. You know, how what do you put in to research a certain situation? You know, I mean, a lot of people don't even know that. So, you know, I always ask the kids to research something.
Like what?
I don't know. I just whatever they're asking me. I say, okay, I don't know. Why don't you look it up? So we look it up together. So, I mean, everything is right here, you know, for us now. Whereas before we would have to go into a library and look it up or, you know, but that's why, you know, information is just here for us everywhere. And it's pretty easy to get.
So please let us know if you would like to see an adulting 101 class, because I think there are so
Yeah,
many
we didn't even
skills.
cover financial or any
Yeah.
IRAs or any.
Oh, yeah. By the way, the basics of investing. No one knows how to invest. Like in a bull market, it's this common saying. In a bull market, everyone thinks they're a genius. In a bear market, no one talks about investing. And by the way, the best opportunities to make money are in a bear market. The reason why most people don't realize that is because they do not know basic investing skills.
Yeah.
I wrote a book in 2005 about Warren Buffett. It was called Trade Like Warren Buffett, where I really studied his personal letters from the 1950s. Now people see it's very public, his letters from the 80s and the 90s, but his letters weren't so public in the 50s. And I would study all his investments, and I made a book out of this called Trade Like Warren Buffett. And then I followed his career, all along the way. His best investing was always done in the worst markets that everyone else would run away from. And I see it right now. We're in a bear market where things are way down from the highs in last November. And this is the time to make money, but it's a scary time. You're always going to be scared because if everybody was making money at the same time, then I'll tell you, nobody's really going to make money in the long run. It's the times when you're standing out there looking like an idiot where you're going to make money. But you have to understand risk. Risk is another thing, almost separate from investing. And kids don't understand risk. And unfortunately, if they never learn, then as they get older, they don't understand risk. But risk is the most important thing to understand about decision-making, about investing. If you truly understand risk, you'll make a ton of money. If you don't understand risk, as I've known all too well, you'll go broke many times.
Yeah, well, parents don't let them experience it because they do everything for them.
Or the parents themselves don't understand risk.
Well, there's too many helicopter parents. Like the kids need to learn how to do stuff, like they need to know that you're there and you're watching. But I mean, there needs to be, consequences. If they don't feel anything like that, they're not going to understand what the risk is. What is the consequence of that risk?
It's
what's the next thing that happens if something bad, they have to understand what is coming, right? So I think they'll be more able to understand the risk because they'll be like, well, if I do this, then maybe this will happen. And I don't want that to happen because it doesn't feel good. So I'm going to do this. So if we allow them to feel some pain about their choices, then I think that they will inherently learn about risk.
Yeah.
Because it starts at a very young age, And so, it's just that, and I am guilty of that too. I wish I didn't do that with my kids, but I did.
I always threw my kids into the deep end of the pool to see if they could swim. And 2 out of 3 of them are dead now. But no, I'm just kidding. So Adulting 101, we hope you have these basic skills. And I'll probably write more lists about this on Notepad, notepd.com. But I wish someone had taught me these things when I was younger.
I'll teach you.
Yes, you've already taught me quite a bit. By the way, I'll leave that statistic out of this. 3 out of 4 third marriages end in divorce, but we'll be the 1 out of 4 that will succeed. That's the statistics that I know. But thank you very much, Robyn, for joining me on Adulting 101.
Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair, or the Allison Devon, founder of T-Spressa, and there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.
The McNugget Buddies are back. But this time, they got a fresh look as part of the new Kerwin Frost box at McDonald's. We're talking all new buddies, dressed head to toe in the freshest fits, all designed by the artist Kerwin Frost. So when you order the Kerwin Frost box with your choice of 10-piece McNuggets or a Big Mac, you'll get one of the flyest McNugget buddies to go with it. Think you can collect them all? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.